So the first person we're going to be calling is a certified immigration specialist, lawyer, an author, leadership consultant, and a thought leader. I'm not going to say his name. So he's a distinguished certified immigration specialist lawyer with over 3 decades of legal practice in Nigeria and Canada, focusing on Canadian immigration and workplace issues for the past 2 decades. He is the founding partner of both Topmark and Alternates LLP in Toronto and Goldstream Law Firm in Abuja, Nigeria. As well as founding member of the Ontario Centre for Public Policy and Strategy and the director of 360-degree consulting in Nigeria. Beyond law, Johnson is a celebrated author and former editor of Immigration News, known for its compelling narratives on identity and belonging. His works, including the book Rejected and the blog JB and Things, explore African society's diversity through engaging storytelling. An esteemed mentor and an international consultant on leadership, diversity, and inclusion. He's not just a legal luminary. He's a dynamic figure whose impact extends far beyond the courtroom, leaving an indelible mark on the fields of literature, mentorship, and societal well-being. He has 3 children. This is Koye's part. He's been telling everybody how many children and how old they are. So he's got 3 children, ages 32, 27, and 21. So you know he's actually well seasoned to be on this panel. Join me as I invite Johnson Babalola, known as JB. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to hand over to Koye.
The next panelist, she and her husband, they like to fumigate their house a lot. If you know, you know. She's a resident doctor at McMaster University, Canada, with a rich background as a consultant hematologist in Lagos State, focusing on HIV and AIDS and sickle cell anemia. With nearly 2 decades of experience in medicine, public health, and hematology, she has served as the chairperson of the Blood Transfusion Committee at General Hospital Odam, Marina, Lagos. She earned her MBBS from the University of Ilorin, a PGD and Masters in Public Health from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and a certificate in Leadership and Management in Health from the University of Washington. She has completed a bridging program for internationally trained medical doctors at Toronto Metropolitan University, Ontario, Canada, and she has committed to self-development and women's empowerment. She's an active member of the International Women's Society and volunteers for various NGOs. An avid traveler, photographer, and fashion enthusiast, she's happily married to 2 sets of twins. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make for the second time to the view with Mo, Dr. Sheo at the
Hello, good evening everyone. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the session with Big Daddy, Senior Constable Ojote Agbade. Many of you were not here when we started. Thank you for joining us. We are glad you made it here. We hear that the traffic today was horrible and the weather was not so friendly either. But you're here and we're just so grateful. This is a very pertinent discussion in parenting. A friend said parenting is very huge. And sometimes it can just be like saying, how are you? Because where do you start from? Is it I am fine, but I am not fine? Or I am fine, I was fine. I don't know if I'm going to be fine. There's a lot going on with parenting, and today we just want to, like I said earlier, and scratch the surface. What Daddy said can still be unpacked. There's a lot going in there. He touched on the social, cultural. There's a lot. But tonight we want to start by just delving into some aspects of the cultural part of parenting. And we're going to start tonight by just asking or giving a definition of parenting. And I think, JB, you being a lawyer, are probably the best person to give a definition of parenting. Is there a definition of parenting? Do we have a working definition?
Well, I'm not aware of any legal definition for parenting, to be honest with you. I know there are some lawyers in the house, so if I did not say that right, you can take me to court. But on a serious note, I'll start with this short story. In a village somewhere in Africa, there were 100 babies that were born the same day. And they invited an elder to come and perform the naming ceremony for those babies. And before he did, he said, each of these the children you have here, each of them will end up differently. Among these children are professors, heads of state, armed robbers, kidnappers, rapists, pastors, imams, because that's the reality of having children. And then, flowing from there, what is parenting? It is the raising and nurturing of infants or children from infancy to adulthood. Sometimes though we come in contact with children at post-infancy stages, or they come into contact with us. But generally, the role of parents, or the definition of parenting, is basically the raising of those children and nurturing them from that state to adulthood. Then it kind of encompasses different responsibilities and expectations, provision of their needs. You have to provide for the needs of your children, housing, shelter, same thing as shelter, healthcare, food, clothing. It goes beyond that. Parenting also includes, helping your children to socialize. They have to learn how to behave outside. That is your role as a parent. Beyond that, you also have to discipline. You have to encourage, you have to discipline, and you also have to care about their mental well-being. Very important, because some people believe that parenting only means, I provide for you, you have food, what else do you want? And that's what some parents will say. Most of us that grew up in Africa or in Nigeria, you will remember parents will say, I gave you food, what else do you want from me? But it goes beyond that, because the way you nurture and care for that child from A to Z will determine how that child will be in the future. So generally speaking, that's a working definition that I would propose that we work with today.
It goes beyond just giving birth.
Absolutely.
To the children.
Absolutely.
Michelle, I know that people talk about different styles of parenting. Can you shed some light on the kind of styles of parenting, and does anyone correlate to a particular society or a people?
Okay, thank you for that question. First of all, I want to say I'm not an expert at parenting. I believe parenting is a lifelong journey. It's something that even for those of us that are fortunate to have our parents, I remember my mom will call me and say, oh, have you taken your medications, your multivitamins? And I'm like, Mom, I'm a doctor. I have children of my own. So parenting is a lifelong thing. We're all learning. However, there are like 4 main styles of parenting, and the scientist in me, because we deal with evidence. Whatever you do, if you're going to treat someone, it must be evidence-based. So it must have been tried, trusted, and there must be evidence. So I came across, there are several books for this particular study that was done that shows that there are 4 styles of parenting, 4 main styles of parenting. And they are authoritarian, authoritative, then you have the permissive, and then the neglectful or uninvolved. And I say this because I just remember what our daddy said about some parents don't even know what school their children in. They have no clue what grade, and I found that really preposterous because I'm like, how would you know your child's grade? But some people they've never been to their children's school before, even in Nigeria. You have just the mommies attending functions, but that's a topic for another day. So how do you, and I want us to think about it and find or try and look at where we all fit in that box. So for those that are authoritarian, where I think a lot of African parents, okay, maybe a lot might be unfair, but quite a considerable number of African parents belong. They are the ones that say there's just one way communication. These are the rules, these are the regulations, the child has no say, this is where we are going, and that's it. For the authoritative, it's a two-way communication. So there are rules, there are boundaries, there are expectations, but the children are involved. They are allowed to speak. They are allowed to be involved in setting the rules. They can, it's not like, oh, whatever mommy says or daddy says, then we have to do, and that's it. We can't question, we can't ask questions, we can't, share opinions. So there's nurturing in that kind of parenting, and the children know that for every action, there are consequences. You must set clear boundaries. And then you have the permissive parents who mostly are like, they want to be their children's friends. But there's always a stage in life for that. But permissive parents there's a lot of warmth, but there's also a lot of, there are no clear boundaries, there are no rules. So in those kind of homes, the kids there's no set time to go sleep. So bedtime, you can go to bedtime anytime you want to. You can play games from morning till night. It's okay. It's fine. Because such parents are afraid of getting used to their children's bad books. And in that kind of home, you find a lot of kids that are obese. Why? Because they can eat whatever they want. There are no boundaries as to what kind of food is not allowed, or even if it's not allowed, or it's allowed in what quantity. So they can eat whatever. They are on their screen from morning till night, or they don't have like controlled screen time, and so they are sedentary. The fourth is the uninvolved, which are the ones that I said they have no clue what's happening to their children. Like they don't say, I've given birth to you, I've given you food, you have a house, whatever school you are in. If you're like go to school, if you don't go to school, it's your problem. Like there is no warmth, there is no boundary. So for the permissive, so there are 2 extremes. So the authoritarian are the very extreme ones. There's no warmth, and there's a lot of assertion. The assertion is at the highest, there's no warmth. For the authoritative, there's warmth, but there's also assertion. So the children feel loved, nurtured, but they also know there are rules in this house. And then for the permissive, they are the other extreme. You can do whatever you like. But for the uninvolved, there's no warmth. Like, whatever, I don't care. You're just a child. Whatever happens to you. And they're the ones who find money on the streets because they have to hustle. They feel like there's nobody that cares for me anyway, so let me go sort out myself. And then the permissive are the ones in which there's a lot of warmth, but there are also no rules. So you can think about it and try and figure out where we all fit in this picture. And like I said, we're all learning. It's a learning curve. You can decide, and then you can think of which one really do we think. I'll leave you all to decide which one you think is the best. You know where you are and then where you want to go to. I think in terms of the styles of parenting. I would just want to make it very brief.
Okay. Now, I know we're talking in terms of, in the context of cultural. And so when we hear different styles of parenting, definition of parenting, how do they intersect with culture? What is the meaning of culture as it concerns parenting? JB, I think that's for you.
All right, so, culture.
Yeah, what's the meaning of culture?
Recently, I lost a friend, and you know, another friend and I were talking about culture and relation to that. And he was telling me that he was leaving home. His daughter told him, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going to visit the wife of the friend I just passed." He said, "What? Dad, this is not the time to visit. You know, he's mourning, he just lost someone. You give us space. You know how to, let her breathe." And, but that daughter, was speaking, from her own perspective, her own culture of how things should be to her. Then my friend said, "Well, where I come from, this is the time that I should be there. This is the time that she needs the support because, we want to, give her every support she needs at this difficult time." So culture, generally speaking, in my mind, have some of the core issues that relate to custom, language, communication, growth, arts, and so many things that people have come together to say, this is how we want to relate with one another. This is what will govern our relationships between each other and between us and the world. So, to them, it's common. And then, but over the years, things have started changing. That is where we have issues. Because the reality is this: culture will change for many reasons. Picture this for a minute. A man who had left his village, for the city because of employment, industrialization. Consciously or unconsciously, that will have some effect on his culture. But maybe not so much as a child that will be brought to this world in that environment. So when you pack your bag and you say, "Canada, here I come," how many people really had said to themselves, "This might affect my culture, or it might even affect more the culture of my child who is coming with me, or the child I will have in that country"? Because remember, let's go back to the definition. A set of people have come together and say, "This is how we want to live." So you are coming from outside, coming into that environment where people have already predetermined their own culture. Of course, by you coming to, you are diluting their culture. So it's not just a one-way thing. You are not the only one affected by this cultural change. They are also affected at some point. So then that's where you now have this conflict, whereby, a child that was born here, to that child, "I have a different culture from you, Mom. I have a different culture from you, Dad. Don't talk when I'm talking. But Dad, I need to speak." "No, but you cannot speak." That is different from when I was growing up, that my mom would say, "Sit down there." And my culture then was, there was no point even arguing. So the next thing would be, "Yes, Mom." I tell my children this story that for the first time in my life after secondary school, I planned a party with some friends. That was the first time in my life. I was so excited. And I couldn't tell my mom, I'm a product, I'm a single parent. So I was going around the house, I would clean, I would wash dishes, I cooked, I would watch everything that had to be watched in that house that day, just thinking, how do I bring this to my mom? And then eventually, the party would start at 7. And then it was like 4 o'clock. Mom, my friends and I were having, what? Party? You're not going. And go to bed, 7 o'clock, I must see you in bed. That was it. There was no argument. I cried in bed. When I woke up the next day, I was okay. I moved on. I did not suffer any depression from it. I did not think it was as if nothing had happened. But that was the way I was raised. That was my culture. But then, if I was raised that way, and I now come here and I say, okay, that's the exact way I want to raise my children. There's something wrong with that. Yesterday, my youngest child, sir, you say your youngest is 42, mine is 21, so that's more, that's times 2. She was doing some research with, with a company that she works for, whereby they bring parents and ask those parents. They wanted to know how the parents interact at home with their children who were about to go to universities. And so she came to me with that. We just dealt with some parents, and one of them was just like you. And I was like, really? Said, there was a parent that everything he talked about was, just like he said, very authoritarian. Said the parent would just say, my daughter is going to Master University, is going to study biology, after that, is going to study medicine, and that's it. And every time they tried to talk this man, to redirect him, he said, look, relax. Now he said, no, she's going to my master, and that's it. The child has no say at all. Come back, the other man will say, you know what, I'm having a discussion with my daughter about what is best for her, her aspirations in life, and then we are listening to each other. Of course, we will make a decision at the end of the day together, but you listen to your child. So I was like, okay, so which one do I belong to? So, well, of course, the other one. And quite frankly, sometimes as a parent, you do things and your kids are watching you, and you have no idea, that whatever you do, they're learning from that. It's like I always say to people, if your phone were to be human, what your phone will say about you, you'll be shocked. Right? Same thing with children. So culture, second, but there are many, many reasons. But then let me just say this quickly. There are people whose cultures have changed, not because they set out that way. Because sometimes we look at this thing and we're like, parents should behave this way, should do this, should do that. The reality of some people is not like that. Let's think about people that are going through the war, they are at war right now. The last thing on their mind is to raise children silently. Because the only thing they think about right now is survival. And when an immigrant comes here, I think we were discussing this and I said this, that the immigrants of today should go to church or mosque and do Thanksgiving. Because there's a lot of information out there that's very helpful. TikTok, idea. There are negative sides to all those things. Wow, there are some positive things that will go on. When some of us left Nigeria in the early 90s, and a phone call was £2 per minute, and internet aware, we were just thinking about survival. And that was a time that people would take their children to third parties to look after. That was pretty common in those days. Because they had to do 2-3 jobs to survive. They take their children to people, I was living in London then, outside of London, and they would go on weekends to go pick the child and bring the child home. Or in some cases, they will only pick the child back home during holidays. Whose culture would that child imbibe? Whose culture? So, there's a lot of these days when we come and, there's the reality of some people, there are also the realities of other people. I just wanted to throw that in there as well when we talk about culture and
yes, circumstances will play a huge role in the change that we experience as a people. Now, as you talk about all of these changes, and I think you hinted at adaptability of culture. We're going to talk about adaptability soon, but I was just wondering, Shell, I don't know if you've heard it, but there are so many parents who would derogate their culture, project it negatively. There was a mom that was complaining, for example, this is not culture, but I think it speaks to the religious side of culture, that their child no longer wants to go to church with them. However, this mother comes out from church on Sunday. That pastor, this is the one they are preaching again today, and the child is listening. And so she comes out of church, she talks negatively about the pastors, about other people that she has met in church. That one, all she knows how to do is dress up and come to church. She's not even worshiping. They were singing and she was sitting down. I caught her looking at herself. Who cares what she wears? And this child was listening. And so after a while, the child says, I don't want to go to church anymore. And she's jumping hopes and saying, why my child doesn't want to go to church? And when you spoke with the child privately, the child says, well, I don't know if it's worth going to church, because when we go to church and my mom comes out, she practically abuses everyone from the pastor to the ushers who didn't greet her properly. And then next week it's repeat. Why would I do that? So the point I'm making is, why is it that people expect culture to permeate, but they derogate it? They talk negatively about it. Can you speak about that, projecting our culture negatively and what impact it has on our children?
I think quite a number of us have been guilty of this, projecting our culture, our people in a negative light. We hear things like, oh, I don't want to stay where there are too many Nigerians. I don't want to stay where there are plenty blacks. I don't want to go to churches that are, we hear those things and our children are listening, they're absorbing them. And then when they now want to get married, secretly, you now want them to marry or date Nigerians, Africans. And then you are saying, okay, when next are you going to come home? So for some that have to go back home, maybe in their old age, and the kids don't want to come, and you're wondering why. Because you've sown those seeds. We've sown those seeds years before. This reminds me of a personal story I want to share. It was year 2020. We just moved to Canada, and we were planning this trip. From my husband, I bought the ticket, and then my children were like, "Mommy, can you just convince Daddy to just cancel those tickets? We don't want to go." And I was like, when did you guys come? We came in August and we want to go in December and you're saying you don't want to go. They were like, hey, there's a lot of kidnapping. And that was when there was this SARS thing happening, and it was around, like, it was just a lot, and you were saying all those things. And that was actually concerning for me, because I remember we were always watching YouTube then to see what was happening, and my husband kept telling me, Shane, don't allow these children, you're always playing this thing, you're going to bias their mind. And it was until they said those things I had a reality check, and I realized that unintentionally I was projecting my own, insecurities and projecting it on them. And if one of my son was like, oh, Mommy, I packed my worst clothes. All my nice clothes, I left them in Canada, and I packed my worst clothes so that in case, it gets to him. And I was like, what have I done? But thankfully, we went to Nigeria. They had a fantastic time. It was 3 weeks of fun, and guess what? When we came back, they were like, "Oh, so when are we going back to Nigeria?" And I was like, no, traveling is it's a lot of money. So, but we were very happy about that investment, because it made them see Nigeria, and this just within 6 months, and they're already forgetting, or they had changed their mindset about what Nigeria was. And it wasn't like, we lived in the... So it was funny to me, but it wasn't also funny. So what am I trying to say? It's our responsibility as parents to project our culture in a positive light. We need to change the narrative. We can't allow other people, and we have so many billions of Africans, millions of Nigerians, and let's not just focus on the minority that are, yes, those things are happening, but it doesn't mean our people, that's what our people are known for. Our people are known to be warm, they're known to be industrious, they're known to be hardworking, they're known to be intelligent, and thankfully in Canada, if we take your children to those circles where they see Africans, Nigerians doing great things, they want to associate. I remember very clearly my younger kids, when I have 2 sets of twins, they're 17 and 11, so they're going to be 18 and 12 this year. So when the boy, the younger set of twins, the boy, when he was young, I would dress him up in like our native attire and everything, and he would cry, especially on Sundays. That's our regular Sunday wear. He would cry and say, "Mommy, I don't like this. It makes me look like a grandpa." And I was like, "Why don't you like it? This is what we wear." He would cry, and then now we get here, and he tells me, him and his brother say, "Oh, Mommy, you know those like what you're wearing? They try to describe it for me. Can you order it for us?" I was like, "Really? Seriously?" I said, "No, we need to get someone to sew it, and you don't order it off Amazon or whatever." And they were like, those, but because they're seeing that they are in the midst of people who wear it, it looks good on them. It doesn't mean you have to be a grandfather to wear those sort of things. There's another leadership thing I take them to where they bring black people, just like we're doing here. We're seeing the first, Nigerian, I won't call him dad, his granddad to me, he's the first black police officer in Toronto, Mr. Owodoyin that came first. So when you take them to places where they see Nigerians and Africans doing great things, they'll also be inspired to associate and relate with their culture. One of my son's schoolmate here in the audience. So he got to his school, he realized that they didn't have, like all other schools, they didn't have like a black students association, and he was proud to, initiate that idea. He started it, they never had it in their school before. He was one that pioneered it, started, he got this group of friends. Thankfully, one of them is here in the audience. So it's our responsibility, nobody's going to do it for us. So if you do it your own, you do it your own, I do it my own, it becomes a multiplier effect. So what am I trying to say? Please, let's project our culture in a positive way. I went to a bank one day, I won't mention the bank, and I opened the page, and the first thing I saw, these people from Nigeria are known to do this. I'm sure you know what I'm saying. I don't want to say it because it's not. I went to a bank, and that was what was in their pamphlet. The Nigerians are the ones that started this. And I was like, what is this? I'm not going to project that, so I won't even say what was written in that, but this is a true life story. So please, I beg us as parents, let's stop the derogatory, let's stop putting down our culture, let's, try and infuse even our food. Like Modupe was saying that, some parents are like, oh sorry, their children will say, Amala is disgusting, it's yucky, and it's fine with them. And they're posing that, they're feeling bougie and posh, that, we only eat chicken casserole, we only eat pizza, not only does it have health implications, what are they going to pass to the next generation? Our food is nutritious. One of my baby boy would tell me, Mommy, can I just have rice without stew? It's too spicy. I'm like, in our culture, spice is very good. It should allow your taste buds, it should open up your taste buds. The stew has minerals, it has vitamins, I don't like beans. Yeah, some children will have real allergies. You know, I remember when I kissed anybody has Nigeria, they told me, "Oh, mom, write a note and say we don't like how do you call it? Is this solid food or swallow? That they are allergic." I said, "I'm not going to write any letter because I'm not allergic to it. Why are you shy?" But when they give you all those burgers and everything in your school, is fine. But I should write that you have allergy to but no way, you don't have any allergies. You are going to, we make you eat them at home, you're going to eat them. So please, as parents, let's do better. I'm also guilty of some of these things I'm saying, but we're all trying, we're all learning, we're all, you know, on this journey together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
yes. You know, just to piggyback on what you said, leadership and projections. There are Nigerian churches in the GTA that will ask their members not to wear Nigerian clothes to service. You know, in fact, they will call it costume. Don't wear any costume to service. Now listen to that. And there are young people, young Nigerians, in that congregation. When you make such an announcement, what kind of message are you sending to the younger ones? You see, somebody said one day, I said, there were many things I had done in my life that I'm not proud of, that I should be saying sorry for. And quite frankly, it's not about killing someone. It's not about committing, any criminality or anything. It's about how we have, some of us have parented. And every parent must come to that, position whereby they reflect. Because when you are a parent, you have to reflect. And you have to reflect periodically. Was I there for my children? How did I communicate with my children? How did I project my culture to my children? And what can I do to make some positive changes? If you have those conversations with yourself, you are on the road to mending whatever needs to be mended. But when you don't have those conversations with yourself and you still believe that this was the way my father raised me, I can't say sorry to you. Why do I say sorry to you? For children, as human, as we are. And so it is very important, again, to project everything around us. And it's about being honest. Because I don't want us to say that for instance, that there are no problems in our nation. It's not about us saying that, there are nothing, that things that are happening that we should not be talking about. But how do we communicate those things? Okay, there is hunger in the land. We have bad leadership. Not all of them are bad, but we have bad leadership. That's a big problem for us. However, we believe that they are also taking this step, to make some changes. And I do believe that someone like you in the future, maybe if you have a chance, and with whom you stay focused, you might also have a chance to also make a positive, make some difference, within a nation like Nigeria. By saying those things to your child, you're also building that child for success. But if all you say is, this is bad, that is bad, and you don't communicate, you are authoritarian, right? You're just saying what you want to say, and that's it. No questions. Go ahead.
Can I just quickly add something about language and
Yes.
culture? So I realized that a lot of us, as African parents, we spend money to pay people to teach our kids French, to teach our kids Spanish. We want them to be bougie, we want them to be world-class citizens. But how many of our children understand our language? I'm not even talking about speaking now. a lot of people came from Nigeria, and they are here. The children don't even understand their language. Speaking is a bit too far. And yes, it is. Some don't even understand that, but they speak French fluently, they speak Spanish fluently, and it's our responsibility. We made that mistake with our first set of children. We didn't care, like, oh, the nannies, you can speak whatever, as long as you understand. So they were speaking pidgin to them, and there was a day I told my son, I said, "Wow," and he was looking at me like, "What am I saying?" What I felt, why Yoruba means come, and he was looking at me like, "What's this woman saying?" That's when I realized that, oh, I made a big mistake. So when we had the second set of twins, we told our nannies then back in Nigeria, we said, please speak Yoruba to these children. Don't speak English, you just speak Yoruba to them. Whatever they're saying, speak Yoruba to them. And now my younger twins understand you. You can't even gossip in Yoruba anymore because you understand Yoruba so well. We are still on the learning curve of speaking. And what we try to do, because we can't say because of our parents, it has to be this way. Children nowadays, different things motivate them. So what my husband does is he'll say, whoever speaks the most Yoruba to me this week gets something. So you see them scrambling trying to Google what this thing means, because you have to say a complete sentence. Any sentence you speak, you have to be full Yoruba. So they will try and ask me, oh, what does this mean in Yoruba? Okay, because I need to go and tell daddy something. Whatever it is, just let's find it and just do it. So if you can spend such money on French, on Spanish, so for those that are kids to it's not too late. That same money, you can get them Igbo teacher, get them Yoruba teacher, get them Hausa teacher. And why am I saying this? It gives children a sense of identity. The other people will say they're not part of us. And so they're neither here, they're neither Nigerians, nor on that side, and so they are lost. You don't know where to fit in. Meghan Markle went to Nigeria recently. I'm not going to Meghan Markle, sorry. Yes,
Duchess.
Yes, the Duchess. And she's now saying she's 43% Nigerian. She was wearing our Ashoki skirts. So if we are trying to associate with us, why are we as Nigerians trying to
disassociate ourselves from Nigeria?
I don't understand.
Well, what do we say to parents? Let me speak for parents who have other views. Pro bono, they are now
Free of charge.
Free of charge. What do we say to parents who are saying, I don't want to stress myself. I want to take care of my children. Nurture them, provide for them, ensure that they are good academically, but things like culture, language, as far as they are here, they understand the culture, they understand the language here. I'm not taking them back home. This is where they're going to live their life. And that I move on, maybe when I'm 65, 70, I pack my bag, I go, they live their life. What do we say to them? So, can I ask you that question?
I'll say your language, everything can be bad. There must be something good in it. We're speaking to one of the panelists was saying, like, there are certain things you might not agree with in your culture. She was saying she doesn't agree with that in our culture they will say, oh, you can't take something from an adult with the left hand. And it just does not make sense to her. And that's fine. Because our child asked her, okay, you said I shouldn't take something from me. Okay, what implication does that have? Really? So I would say, as a family, as a couple, as a family, you have your values, you decide what it is about my culture I want to pass on to the next generation. I like Yoruba children greeting the proper way, kneeling down, the Bible. It's personal to me. For some people, it's okay for your children to say hi, hello to people that are their parents. It's fine. Hello, hi, and just walk past. If that's what you want, it's fine. So I would say each person define what it is that is important to you. I like our language. I like our clothing. I like, our food. So the ones I like, I will take. But the ones I don't quite like, I was advising and saying it's okay to delete it from your, but you can't delete your identity, you can't delete your lineage, you can't delete where you're from. So I'll say delete those ones you don't like and take those ones that you like. The ones of where you cannot say anything, it's just only parents can talk. I don't like that part of our culture because I believe you don't raise confident children that way, where they have no voice. And whatever you say they do, and then outside they are someone else. So personally, I don't like that, but that's me. I don't like that part of our culture. So I'll say, that's where I'll answer it. Take the one that you feel you value, yes, that resonates with you, and then delete the one that you feel, no, I don't want it.
Yeah. Like I said, there's so much to unravel or unpack on this topic, and time is far gone. But I wanted us, before we leave, to talk about, and you did touch on it, both of you talked about vulnerability when you were explaining that many parents don't like to apologize, for example, to their kids, or even show a vulnerable side to them, and that's very predominantly African parents. They want this bravado exterior, while even if they are breaking up inside, they do not want their kids to know. And one of our friends actually shared with us, all of us, how she was going through a rough patch, and her kid came back from school and looked at her and said, "Mom, are you okay?" And she came out of her office and said, "No, I'm not okay. All I want right now is a hug." And the child, I think she's just about 11, thereabout, and she said, "All I want right now is a hug." And the girl hugged her mom, and she held on to the daughter for about 2 minutes. It was just a very tight hug, and the little girl was saying, "It's going to be okay, mommy, you're going to be fine, it's going to be okay." She didn't know what was wrong with her mom, but she knew enough to know that mom is not okay. And mom let her in on this. And now the flip side of that is that it's reciprocal, because this child came another day and she was able to confide in her mom that, "Oh, she's not doing okay." And many parents, many of us parents actually, we don't like to project that we're weak or that there's anything wrong with us. And even when the kids are like, "Mom, are you okay? Do I look like I'm not okay?" You see, if you are busy, you will not have time to be poking your nose into who is okay and who is not okay. Have you done your homework? It is what they put up with. It's their way of managing stress. And sometimes it is a function of, or a product of how we were brought up. Right? I remember when I was about 8 or 9, I've been watching those movies of how kids would just go and hug their mom and, out of nowhere. So I am not from a home where you have mom and dad. My mom had mouth support block, and I was spending my holiday there with my mom. And she was cooking, and I was looking at her, and in my head I was like, "What will this man do if I just grab a hold of her and hug her right now?" So it was in my head, and I wanted to do it, and then I just went to her, I'm like, "Mommy, I love you." She looked at me. "You well?" Adeswa. Hey, Adeswa. What do you want? So I laughed and I said, I was about 9 or 10. I said, "No, I saw it on TV." And she just looked at me like, she's crazy. But over time, that has evolved. And that brings me to adaptability of parenting. Many of us come from Nigeria. We have our fixed way of doing things. And I'm going to tell you a story. I know you are the storyteller, but I'm going to tell you a story tonight. There's this girl I spoke with. She's about 35 now. She says to me, she said, "Auntie, actually now I'm interested in marriage. But for the longest time I was not interested." She said, "Because everybody that might have been a good husband were in the friend zone." So I said, "Why? Why were they in the friend zone?" He said, "Hey, auntie, they were not Nigerian, they were not black. My parents will kill me. They told me I cannot bring anybody who was not Nigerian, was not black. Now, they've been asking me, bring him." He said, "But all of them have gone." He said, now I'm ready, but until even the church brothers gone, they're not looking. Say, but 35, she was not, but 35 is not too old, care, is it? And you know, you want to feel sorry, but parents did that. Parents did that. Another parent told the child, if I see, the child came home and said, I want to start dating because all my friends in my grade are dating. She was in grade 11 or 12. All my friends are dating. She came to her mom. And the mom said, your friends are finished reading. That's why they are failing. That's why they are failing. You will not go and read. You are looking for boyfriends you want to date. Let me catch you with a boy. And she was upset. She just took it like that. I said, okay, fine. And then she started bringing in girls to the house. What mom didn't know was that she had become a lesbian, because mom didn't want to see a boy. We're not going to go into that because it's very, it's a lot. It's a different topic all on its own. But how are we as parents adapting to parenting differently? Not just differently, but uniquely to each child, because we have 4 children does not mean that they all want to be parented the same way. I didn't know that. I learned that over time. I was like, okay, this one, the same stick you used to, but that one cannot work on this one. So you had to adapt. So I think to talk about that, JB will start us off adapting, or Sheol, either of you, either one.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough one. Quite frankly, it's very tough for the parents, because we can have the discussion and take the parents unintentionally, take the parents out of the discussion, the feelings of the parents, how they were brought up and all those things, so it can, it can emotionally and psychologically become a one-way focus on the children, the welfare of the child and this and that. How about the parent? Who was brought up this way? I mean, we're talking about hugging. A man or a woman that nobody had ever hugged him or her in his or her life. How do you now have a child and you start hugging? You have to unlearn something. We all have to unlearn certain things first. Like you said, delete them, and then replace them and relearn. Quite frankly, how do I do this? I don't know if you have read this book, or I don't want to do it for a book, but the story basically was that, immigrant child at home, the parents would pronounce, knife as knife, right? And the child would get to school and pronounce it that way. Because to that child, parents were always right. My parents can never do anything wrong. They have my best interest at heart. So a lot of parents have the best interest with their children at heart, and they say, do this, do that. But again, like I said, you have to check in, periodically and say, hey, what am I doing? You cannot live the life of your children and add it to your own. You cannot, you need to know what will make your child to be happy. If a child says, this is what I want to do, then you guide that child within that environment. Okay, what are you looking for in your man? What are you looking for in your woman? Okay, what are the attributes of this person? Let's sit down, let's talk. Then you talk about those things. That's how you adapt. Sometimes you have to swallow like 3-4 times, the saliva, and you know that, God, I ordinarily am not like this, ordinarily I will not do this, but, I just need to, work with my child. Of course, there are things that you will not control. Our father here has spoken about going to your child's room and checking things and everything, I can relate with that. I can tell stories about that, in a way that, it's really helped, because sometimes if you just say, you close your eyes, that's the way they do things here, let them adapt to their way. Adaptation can go both ways.
Yes.
You can say, I'm adapting to their way, and that's it. But you want to adapt in such a way that you can move from here to here, and the child can move from here to here. And it's all about communication. Okay? It's all about communication. If you don't communicate well, I know we'll talk about communication in a minute, so I don't want to go into that. But generally speaking, it's good to adapt, but to measure those adaptations, you know, from time to time with the child, and say, is this hurting the child or is this not? Then let's have a discussion about it. That's what I want to say.
I just have 1 or 2 examples. So I had this experience with my daughter. I have just one, and so she said, "Mom, I noticed that anytime," she has a twin brother, and she was like, "Mom, anytime I noticed that anytime for house chores, you're always calling me. You don't call Thomas away. It's not fair." And I was like, you don't know you're a female. You need to, you know, be able to do all these things. And she said, "I don't understand. What do you mean, Mommy?" And I was like, what do you mean? Exactly what and this is me that was saying I want to unlearn. And that just was a light bulb to me that, you know, and which is something I'm trying to, it's a very African for us to say, oh, there's a female that should be the one to learn how to cook. Our older brothers can do all that because they are the first anyway, so they had to learn how to clean, cook, do everything. But I realized that unintentionally, because of my own cultural background, yes, I was not, because she had a twin brother, I was dedicating all the chores to her, and unintentionally I didn't know that she was actually watching me. So I would always call her, "Please help me do this, why do this?" And she was like, "But you leave Tommy Sweet to be watching TV and, you know, doing all that, and then you're always calling me to do all these things for you." And I was like, "I'm a female." And the reason I'm mentioning this because of adaptability, I had to now adapt to stay here. I just realized here, there's no female chores or male chores. Everybody does everything. And so, as parents, we have to raise our men that they're not just supposed to be served by women. If you are in the home, it's both of your responsibility to do all the chores. There's no chore that is specific to just the female or gender, and then some it's the male's, it's the boy or the man or the male responsibility. So that's another way I personally had to unlearn that, and I made a conscious effort to always, you know, try and do it equally because it sort of counts and they're twins. Another experience I have is, as Africans, I'm sure all of us have heard, all our parents came first. All our parents, so I don't know, there's no parent that came second or third. All our parents came first. And how possible is that? How realistic is that? How true is that? I know as Africans we have very high standards, but it's also good for us to let our children know that even when you put in your best and when you study hard, even in your businesses, you can still fail. And it's not the end of the world. And it's okay to fail. I remember the first time I ever told my children, I called them, "Oh, Mommy, so how did your exam go?" And I was like, you know, I didn't lie. I was very open to them. I said, "It didn't go well. I didn't pass." They were like, "Oh, Mommy, really?" Because to them, it felt like, oh, Mommy and Daddy can never fail. It's not, Mommy and Daddy can never fail. That's how it is. And I said, it's okay. Probably I didn't prepare well enough, or I didn't have the right materials, but I like that moment because it made them also know that it's not that if you don't do well in a particular school, it's not the end of the world. And that's why you have some kids now in university, because Canadian higher education is extremely grueling. Like, it takes a lot from you. The standards are very high. And so some children don't do well because, of course, they have authoritarian parents that they cannot talk to, they cannot communicate with. If they fail, they are dead. If they fail, they're going to cut off their head or whatever. I don't mean literally cut off their neck, but they are in serious trouble. And so these children, they're the ones that you see using drugs. They're the ones that would drop out of university. Their parents have no clue. They're still sending them money for school fees or paying school fees and giving them pocket money, thinking they're in school, but they cannot open up to their parents. And so we need to also adapt and let our children know that it's okay. If you not do well this time, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. We fall to rise again. So the Africanness of, oh, you must always be first. Nobody ever came second. It doesn't mean you shouldn't make your children aspire for greatness, but that's the reality of life. You will not always win all the time. You won't always do well all the time, even when you're giving your best. And it shouldn't be the end of the world. So those are my own personal experiences as regards adapting, and taking on and unlearning some of our culture.
Yeah. So more, just quickly to add to that, comparisons. When you compare people, that's something that people have to move away from when they come here. And we have this culture that I believe is extremely wrong. I believe bragging, in the gathering of parents and things like that, or children, you want the children to come together. Oh, why don't we all gather together? And so you have 10 families. Oh, this one is studying law. Yeah, so you are doing law. Hey. That's what I'm talking about. You see, did you see? Can you see? See? Oh, I'm studying engineering. Madam, you are very lucky. You are very, very lucky.
The implication is that you are not lucky.
Extremely wrong. Extremely wrong. These are all things that, consciously, the world is changed. The world has changed so much. Whatever your child wants to study, support the child. Of course, you can be there for the child, you can make suggestions, you can nurture, you can, suggest, look at the strengths and everything. You can do all those things. But when the child is adamant and say, this is where I'm going, right? This is what I really want to make me happy, then support that child. Okay? And so these are all things that we need to pay attention to when it comes to adaptability.
There's several examples
yes.
that we can share. I know you talked of a young man who was studying engineering or something and just decided, well, he likes ballet.
Yes.
And he just went to do ballet. His parents saw it on YouTube.
On Facebook. You see, again, sorry guys, again, the way we communicate is extremely important. This young man was my client, came here from overseas to study. I was studying, I believe, civil engineering. And then, that's a different one. There are too many stories. This other one basically was studying in school, and then what he did was that he went to a ballet class. He was just bored one weekend. Got there, he was new, he liked it. Then he paid for it, and he started having fun. Then he posted it on his Facebook. And the parents in Nigeria saw it, and they got angry. Ballet is for girls. It's not for this. They started putting two and two together in their head. You see, as it become this. And the next thing they called him and they started talking down on him. And they never stopped until this young man mentally broke down and attempted to kill himself. And it's been about 5-6 years now. He has not spoken to his parents since then. He has left school. He ended up in a shelter. And so, I know we talk about communication, but we have to be very careful. Again, the moment you say to your child, go abroad, you need to talk to yourself.
Like I said, too many stories, and we don't have enough time we've not even touched on long-distance parenting. We've not touched on vulnerability, I think, which we had on tonight, and parenting and communication. Just talked a little bit on that. But we're going to pack it here for tonight because I know that there are probably a lot of questions from the audience. We're going to take questions. So if you have questions, we will take those questions now, and then, just for your information, we're going to be having a part 2 of this parenting session, because it is huge. There are lots of things we've not talked about, and we're going to bring another expert, probably someone from the criminal justice system. I think one of them is an enforcement officer that actually work in the prisons. We're trying to get a hold of them if we do. We just want to have a sense of how they get there, why they're there, and what's going on, and what we can do to prevent it. Story, for example, when you see tattoos on some young men, and you just think, oh, there's a lot of tattoos. Some of them are actually tattoos that tell the number of people they have killed. So a dot would mean a life taken, for example. And so it depends. And we're doing all of this so that we know what to look out for. God forbid. Yeah, we're not saying stop your children from having tattoos. No, we're not. We're saying be vigilant. Know the kind of tattoos they're doing. Are there tattoos that they would put on their faces or on their body that will tell a different story of who they are not?